a very interesting read here, Colum. Maybe walk us through why this is important now, and why do you think that we are seeing, despite pressure from the West, that Beijing is really continuing to invest in its labor program?
Right. Well, to address the why now question, of course, we have a major act coming into effect later in the month in the United States, which is aimed at preventing forced labor of Uyghur ethnic minority populations. That act basically says that companies cannot import goods from Xinjiang unless they prove that those goods have not been made using forced labor. So this is an incredibly important act, and also it could be followed by other jurisdictions, allies of the US, for example, in the months and years to come. As for the Chinese side, I mean, they have been presenting such programs as part of poverty alleviation. They see it as a necessary step for the development of China. And what we're seeing now in recent analysis that's just come out actually today is that not only does these programs continue to exist, but there's a doubling down and an expansion of these programs. And this is all part of a push that wants to see Xinjiang's economy more closely integrated with that of the rest of China, and by extension with the global economy.
What does that mean for businesses then, Colum? It seems like they're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place.
Yes, it's quite a dilemma insofar as that the guidance, exact guidance or precise guidance, has yet to come down from authorities in the US side. But from a geopolitical perspective, I mean, the implication seems that both sides, both the US and China, have very set positions, and in fact the gap between those positions seems to be expanding. So the question is, can that ever be bridged? And it doesn't look too optimistic right now. That's why this big take says, as a basic, one of the conclusions is that this issue, the forced labor issue, is fast emerging as the key issue that will define the relations between Washington and Beijing in the coming years ahead.
How do you see that playing out, and really shaping up the dynamics between the U.S. and China now? I mean, is this going to be a bigger issue between the two? Because before, it really, I guess it's been somewhat in the sidelines, I would say, to what the trade discussions have been. Is this going to be much more prominent now?
Yes, and that's basically the point that we're trying to drive home in the story. And the sort of vehicle for that is this new law that's coming into place later this month on June 21, and that represents the sort of next level of relations between the two. Formalization and strict enforcement is expected. And in response to that, China, as recently as Friday, has come out and asked the US not to implement the law, and said that if they do so, they anticipate severe disruptions to global supply chains, and they also reserve the right to take countermeasures.